Whenever I see a police officer, I go up to him and I say, thank you for your service. And if I have time, I say, please don't be dispirited by the loud few who are trying to defund you.
And the senator on the last question did mention, police officers. Now, with that being said, I'm sure he didn't have the same interaction with the 140 officers that were injured during the January 6th insurrection. One officer was stabbed with a metal stake, another crushed between a revolving door, another hit in the head with a fire extinguisher. So when we talk about respect for law enforcement, let's talk about the 140 officers that he left behind because of an insurrection that he supported.
Hey everybody, Maz Jobrani here. You were just watching Senator Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin debating Mandela Barnes, who's running for that Senate position. Ron Johnson, for any of you guys who remember, is kind of a clown. He's the guy who, when it was found out that his office was going to send fake electors to Mike Pence's office so that they could help in overthrowing the last election, Ron Johnson was confronted by a reporter and he pretended to be on his phone. And the reporter was asking him questions and Ron Johnson goes, I can't talk to you, I'm on the phone. And the reporter goes, I can see your phone is off. And he was like, oh, whatever. He's a total clown. So his clownness continues in this debate when he says that he supports police, he supports law enforcement, he goes up to them, shakes their hands, and then Mandela Barnes is like, boom, you supported the insurrection, which he did. He supported the insurrection on January 6th. He was part of it, he had a hand in it, and he didn't care when his followers, his supporters and Trump supporters were beating the cops at the Capitol. All of a sudden, he was not for the blue when it benefited him. So he kind of set himself up. Like I told you, he's kind of a clown. And the debate continued to get worse for him, as you'll see in this clip.
Medicare would be at the top of the priority list. I've never, ever said I would cut it or put it in the chopping block. That is a false attack.
Called it a Ponzi scheme and
sir,
called it candy.
Lieutenant Governor, this is his time, and I'm going to add a little time to that to once again, you have proposed reviewing Social Security rather than having it be what's called an entitlement, which means it goes on.
You're putting words in my mouth.
All right.
So there you have it. He's getting caught now, talking about how he wants to cut Social Security, which is a big no-no for anyone running in these states, because if you don't know how Social Security works, we work, citizens work, we put money into our Social Security, and when we turn 65, then we get those benefits back. It's kind of an insurance policy. But Johnson has proposed, he says, I want to review it annually, and maybe basically is implying, the Republicans are implying, that they want to cut Social Security because it costs so much. Rather than looking at other things to cut, maybe like money that goes to some of these defense contractors. By the way, the defense contractors are paying these politicians money for their campaigns, or money elsewhere that we could take out. They're saying, no, let's take money out of Social Security, which we, the workers, have paid into. So it's not a popular thing. So he made those comments, and it comes back to bite him in the ass right here when he's confronted by the fact that he's called it a Ponzi scheme, and Mandela Barnes says he's also called it candy. And I told you, it's very clownish, because then Ron Johnson goes, I never called it candy. So I don't know if he called it candy or not. But the point is, when confronted by this issue that could hurt him a lot in the election, he claims that they're putting words in his mouth, which they're not. He basically said he wants to review Social Security every year. Then he gets weirder. Like, here's another clip of him just doing some weird stuff.
I want to thank the Wisconsin Tavern League for your endorsement again. Cheers.
I really think he's kind of a dumb guy. Like, I feel like drinking beer that should be his ultimate responsibility. If he's just drinking beer, I'm cool with him. But being a senator, he says a lot of crazy stuff. He's said a lot of crazy stuff. He's always been on the extreme. He's always been kind of like the Jim Jordan of the Senate. You know what I'm saying? He's always been this guy who you go, how did this guy become the senator? He's like the male Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's just out there. And by the way, his eyes have always seemed to me like he's either very tired or he's been drinking a lot, which explains how fast he was able to drink that beer. Again, if he's just drinking beer, great. But to be a senator, nah. It just I don't know how these guys get voted in. I really don't. And then going back to the main issue that you can get him on, which was how January 6th, he supported the attack on the Capitol and he wanted to overthrow democracy. That right there should just disqualify you from being able to run. Like, Republicans got to find some candidates who actually believe in democracy. But unfortunately, this is the best they can do. And even more unfortunately, there's people that are going to vote for him. So there's a chance he might actually beat Mandela Barnes. I hope not, but there's a chance. And here's Mandela Barnes taking him down again in the debate.
Well, I will say that to push back, the Republican sheriff of Kenosha said that the governor answered every call and gave all the resources that they requested. So let's clear that up. And he may not have noticed that an insurrection was happening because he called those people patriots. He called them tourists. These are the folks that he supported. This is an act that he supported. And he can make whatever comparisons he wants to. But the reality is this was an attempted overthrow of the government by trying to overturn a free and fair election. So the answer is yes. The vice president did do the right thing.
All right, let's.
If you supported the insurrection, then you weren't supporting a free and fair election. You're against democracy. Again, Ron Johnson called those insurrectionists, he called them tourists, he called them patriots. By the way, white people have very funny names for their terrorists. Those guys were terrorists. But I guess if it's a white terrorist, they become patriots. All right, Ron Johnson, I see what you did there. It's amazing. They do like a nod and a wink to the guys who tried to overthrow democracy. It's like when Trump came out to finally ask those people that were about to kill Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi and everybody else. Trump came out and gave a speech and said, "We love you. Please go home. You're patriots." Really? You're going to just keep winking to the right-wing extremists? Really? To these militants who want to overthrow democracy and impose some sort of martial law? Really? How is Ron Johnson allowed to run? I just don't get it. How would anybody vote for this guy? How and why would you vote for this guy? Listen, Wisconsin, you could do a lot better. So here's what my proposal is. Register to vote. Vote for Mandela Barnes. Or if you don't want to vote for a Democrat because you're a Republican, then just don't vote. Because voting for Ron Johnson it's not good for your state. It's not good for the country. It's not good for democracy. Take it from a guy. I'm from Iran originally. I was born in Iran. If you've been watching what's going on in Iran with the people trying to protest and get their freedoms back from this atrocious, oppressive Iranian government, that's what Ron Johnson wants in America. A government that's run by a bunch of militants who would crush people's desire and people's votes. Do not vote Ron Johnson. I'm Maz Jobrani. See you next time.